Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Come to Your Senses podcast. I'm your host, award-winning certified feminine embodiment coach, licensed esthetician, and enthusiastic foster dog mama to animals across the land, Mary Lofgren. Here, we explore how to bring more richness, radiance, peace, and pleasure to our lives, homes, and hearts through the joy of beauty, the wisdom of the body, the warmth of connection, and the splendor of the senses. I'm so glad you're here. Pull up a poof and let's dive in. Hello, beautiful being, and welcome to today's episode. So, if you have ever laid awake at night, spinning in thought loops, feeling like you can't turn off your brain. If you have ever felt stuck in a relationship or a job that you know isn't serving you anymore, and yet you feel frozen in terms of making a change or moving forward. If you've ever felt like your body and your emotions are really inconvenient and like the dark parts of you, the needy parts of you, the vulnerable parts of you need to be managed just to get through the day. And yet, you also know that these parts are intricately connected to a kind of power that you feel simmering beneath the surface of your being. This episode is especially for you. These are some exact quotes from the conversation you're about to hear between myself and one of my dear coaching clients, Natalie Angeloni. Natalie and I have worked together in my signature coaching immersion, which is called Embodied Intelligence. And she so generously is sharing her story today as a demonstration of what's possible when you choose to do something different, when you step out of the conditioned way of being, of thinking your way harder through life, trying to figure it out harder, and into the vast abundance of intelligence that's available when you learn how to come back into your body. At its core, embodied intelligence, and you'll hear Natalie talk about this today, is a process of learning how to discern your triggers from your deep embodied truth, how to take fears that often show up as anxiety or worry or overthinking and return your system to a greater state of safety. And if as you're listening, you hear some of your own story in Natalie's story, I'd love to invite you to learn more about embodied intelligence at marylofgren.com. Between now and June 30th, I'll be interviewing prospective new clients. This work is especially for people who have spent years over-efforting, pushing, striving, managing life from the neck up, only to discover that the harder you push, the less alive and the less on track you feel. If you are navigating a life change, whether it's menopause or a life transition or just simply old ways of being that no longer fit who you're becoming, this is a deeply supported, one-on-one relational process that creates meaningful change from the inside out. And you'll hear all about that in real time today. So you can learn more at marylofgren.com or the link in the show notes. And with that, let us unfurl this beautiful basket of gems from our conversation with Natalie today. Thank you so much for being here. And as I was sharing with you before we started, when I think of just the amazing transformations that a woman can have when she goes through a coaching process like this, I think of you. And I think of, particularly something that stands out to me about your journey is moving from a place of self-doubt and this reliance on the fixer, the controller, the pusher, and knowing deep down, like something in your body, something in your soul was like, this isn't working anymore. And you're brave and beautiful and slow. Like something I really respect about you is that you don't rush into change. You don't take a giant wrecking ball to your life all at once. Like you let your inner slow one set the pace with a great sense of trust in the process. And I have just seen you really recreate your life around this pillar of self trust within your body. So I'm so grateful to share you and share your story with the community today. It is just so inspiring. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. It
yeah,
started with you. It
yeah.
started with you and just opened the door, to all of the deep and dark places and the messy places and the bright and beautiful ones too, and navigating that from a more embodied and grounded place rather than just like looping in my mind trying to figure it out at 4 a.m.
Mm,
Sleep. It's fun when I think back. I'm learning really to honor the integration and see how important the integration is that we learn something, we take a course, we go through college or we train at a job, and then it's like, oh, I'm supposed to be an expert now. And there's a part of me that's done that all my life. And when I've learned more and more about the nervous system too, just the feminine nervous system, that, what comes to mind, and I was just sharing this with two women yesterday, baby steps.
mm,
It's too much to go too fast. That's not the gentle self leader I want to be for myself now. I want
mm,
to take
mm.
it a little bit at a time because I didn't get here overnight. And these old patterns and old things that have kept me stuck for so long, they also didn't just land on my doorstep. They've been there a while. So it's an unlearning and a relearning.
Yes. I love that awareness that, the nervous system can only process so much change at a time, and that even positive life giving changes are still change. And that in order to kind of keep us safe and keep us in balance, I know a lot of my clients and just women in general struggle with this concept of self sabotage and this kind of, I think from a more mental lens that can be seen as like, I have a secret fear of success, or I won't let myself get too big. And from a biological and body standpoint, it's like that healthy rate of growth that can be sustained. And so I love that awareness. And like you said, many times in your life, I think you said before this process, maybe there was this impulse to kind of try and change everything and fix everything and control everything. And that is such a different you than the you I experience today. And so I wonder if you might describe what was your relationship like with your body, but particularly with your body's voice of truth before we started working together and you went through this embodiment process.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel I don't know anyone who was taught to trust their inner voice. I mean, we hear about our gut instincts or, the picture that comes to mind is if you're walking alone and a man's following you, you cross the street like some really, but, silly kind of thing like that. But it makes a lot of sense. But there's also those subtle things like throughout our lives that I know for me, I just had a really hard time speaking up. I didn't trust the inner voice because I didn't know, other than hunger cues and I have to pee, what else is there?
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so what that looked like in my life is, staying in relationships too long that weren't healthy for me, or hoping that something would change at a job and sticking around that too long. And, you know,
Mm.
things like that. And I remember, like, as a little girl, like, gathering up all of my courage to, like, face an elder in my life, a grandparent, and share with her where I felt my needs weren't being met. It was really hard to do that as a little one. And I didn't use those terms, but more or less I was asking for something that I wasn't getting. That was a pretty basic need, and how it was dismissed and ignored, and I was kind of labeled as this needy person. And that
Mm,
label kind of followed me around because I bought into it. I believed that to be the truth because that's what someone, a caregiver, an elder, a respected person in my life told me.
mm,
And Natalie's not very good with change. Well, sure, Natalie's had a lot of change in her life. So, of course, she's not good with change, quote unquote, right?
mm,
But I bought into these stories because that's what I was told. And then here we are, right? And then it wasn't until I learned how to slow down and listen, that it's okay. It's safe to have needs, that that sometimes another cannot meet them, and that's okay. And I can sort of insource those things now from a place of sturdiness that wasn't there before.
mm, mm. We were talking about just before we hit record about being that safe, steady support for your young ones, your mama.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, how do you feel like when your young one is, or when your little ones are experiencing fear or upset? How do you feel like you may have handled that before doing this embodiment process versus what you told me so beautifully before we hit record, which was being a place of safety inside yourself to model for her how to find safety in herself?
Yeah, yeah. There's a part of me that's feeling a little bit of shame to even share this, but I know many women can identify with this. But when we were working together, I can now call it sacred,
Mm,
and I can see and understand more of what was coming up. I was in rage
mm,
during our work together around that time. I was just a raging mom. Not all the time, but I had so much that I was keeping in and pushing down that I wasn't aerating and honoring within myself as my own personal experience, because we know we give so much to our children, especially when they're little and they're really demanding of our time. And I I was not able to regulate myself in a way, that I can now. And so I'm deeply grateful for the ways that I've been able to learn how to do that. And it's changed my relationship with my children, and especially my younger one, who challenges me in different ways. She is more fully embodied. And I
mm,
see that now. I wasn't able to hold her, the spectrum of her emotions, because I wasn't able to hold my own. My
mm,
other one is more in her head, and I got her more. And I can see
mm,
that now, like, oh, I got the cognitive piece, because that's how we move through the world as women, as people, right? We're not a very embodied culture. And so once I was able to welcome more of me, more, I always have the vision, and I would love to write a children's book about this one day, like, of a rainbow. It's not the full rainbow if we leave off one or two of the colors, right? So, and I've given this visual to my girls. When my younger daughter is fully inhabiting herself, it's inconvenient to me, but I refuse to label her that, because I know what that's like, to be
mm,
called needy, to be told that's too much, or to even have that part of me that's like, oh, hit pause, Natalie, that is too much. Don't share that. People can't hold that, and the censoring that starts. I don't want to censor her. So she's really called me forward, and I've been able to meet her with more love and respect and more regulation, because I can stay regulated when she's spinning, when she's feeling, when she's deeply feeling. And when my other daughter is, they are both very sensitive, but when they're in that place of high sensitivity. It may be bedtime, the bedtime scaries, or they're reflecting on something that happened that made them feel fearful. Or I can be with all that, and I don't need to fix it. I'm recognizing the fixer in me. We can just be with it without the need to do anything about it. And that's a huge quality of our work together. I can be with it without needing to do anything about you. You're just as you are.
Woo! Lordy mercy. Gosh, come and tuck me into bed, sister. Oh, I mean, and I feel that, like I remember in our sessions just feeling that so deeply and seeing this change where it's like we can have so much going on up here in the head. And then this willingness to meet what's happening in the body. Like the head may be spinning in thoughts, but, the circuit is emotions that, like you said, we've been taught not to feel or to push away, or we have no skill around how to feel. And that when we turn towards the body without the fixer in the driver's seat, but with that unconditional part of ourselves in the driver's seat, like how easily and quickly it can resolve. And I'm curious, how has it been? Like, have you noticed changes in your girls as that fixer in you has taken the back seat and that more steady, I'm not going to label you, I'm just going to allow you to feel how you feel and trust that this emotion has a beginning and an end, and then something new will appear?
Yeah, yeah, it's really beautiful there's nothing more rewarding than hearing them mirror back my language. It could go the other way, right?
Right?
But I hear my girls, cheer each other on or cheer me on. I
Mm,
hear them say, I want to model up being able to apologize and taking accountability. So even just going to the store and honestly just overlooking something that one of them asked me for, and I get down to them at eye level, and I'm like, I just want to apologize that thing you asked me for, I totally forgot, but I'll get it next trip. And it's like, okay,
mm,
mommy, it's okay to make mistakes. And, just like the things that I say to them, they're saying back. And one of the most beautiful thing is, um, all of you is welcome.
mm,
When they're welcoming, and even though they're doing it to me, I know that they're learning to do it for themselves. And I know there'll be opportunities where that'll ring in their ear, maybe when they're a little bit older. Right now they are in love with mama, and that's a beautiful thing to receive. But I know I'm modeling that and teaching that for them to be able to do that for themselves too. And we've gotten even closer, and just my ability to support them has really expanded. Um, Somehow it's just a really amazing thing to witness as they're growing. They're young, they're 8 and 6, but I just feel like it's a gift that I wish we were all given. It's a skill. It isn't something I could ever say, my mom didn't do a good job. My mom is everything to me. She didn't know. She didn't know. And I'm learning. And so I get to bring this gift to them. And my mom and I have beautiful conversations now where she's reflecting and she's like, oh, I don't think I gave myself a chance to feel. And I'm like, of course you were in survival mode, mom. I
mm.
get that. Like I can hold both truths. Like I didn't always get exactly what I needed. Neither did she. And she was just trying to make it. Like we can absolutely all resonate with that today.
Totally. What an intergenerational healing to be able to have those conversations and, like you said, hold both truths. Like what I hear you, what I hear you really describing is something that I've been working with as I mother myself. Is, I've really have a lot of ease in the nurturing, compassionate, it's okay, I love you as you are, mama. Whereas where I am more challenged is in like kind of the fierce mama, and the more kind of mother bear protective, commanding presence mama. And this is indicative of, how I grew up is my mom's really good at soothing and compassion and sometimes would struggle with boundaries. And like, what a healing to not just be able to pass this on to your girls, but to also model a different way for your own mom.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And what I hear in that and what I've seen in you is that as you have connected more deeply with and also chosen to trust this voice of your body, because I think for a lot of women, there's the hearing of the body voice, and then there's the trusting of the body voice, which are two totally different territories, because the body voice often doesn't make sense. It doesn't care about our ego. It doesn't care about uh, keeping us in our comfort zone to, like you said, like staying in a relationship longer than what's healthy or staying in a job longer. And I'm curious how this reconnection and reunion with your own body voice and your own sense of sovereignty has changed your relationship to other people's expectations and what you feel is yours to hold of other people's, and yeah, just how all of your relationships have shifted as a result of this work.
Yeah, yeah. I can definitely see um, the parts of me that have been fawning and people pleasing to avoid conflict, to avoid conversations that feel too hard to have. And because I've been able to identify a part of me that I really know is a sensitive woman, and it's funny because yeah, that makes sense. I've always been sensitive, and I'm seeing where I've missed the opportunity or didn't have the opportunity to harness it as a superpower.
Mhm.
It's looked like, being taken advantage of, or having, giving more than receiving. And that could look like at a job where you're overperforming or you're trying to keep up or you're doing somebody else's work, or of course in relationships. Putting energy into safeguarding and prioritizing other people's feelings over my own experience has been a big eye opener, because I
Mm,
say to myself, oh, that's what I've been doing. I see that now, where before it was just such a knee-jerk response. And again, it goes back long ago. Of course, I was trying to tend to others to make sure they were okay so that I could be okay.
mm,
And now I'm like, well, what about me? Am I okay? And I get to question that and ask myself, like, what do I value here? Who am I in devotion of here today,
mm.
and I see when it's not me, what might need to shift or change, and remembering that my needs matter. I don't
Yeah.
think, that's been a hard one to see. Like, even when I look at the women in my family, what patterns are there, and what they're carrying now as they age, like you said, like what does healthy aging look like to me? I
Mhm.
don't want to be overburdened with exhaustion and pouring out and depletion.
Mm,
I want to feel more alive. I want to be in more joy. I want to feel like I'm the self-led leader of my own life, that I'm not just out trying to please others and dumbing down and numbing out um, my own desires, because that's what I was doing. I
mm.
didn't even know what they were.
Totally. It does, I find, really require, before we started, we did a little drop in and talked about that feeling of the body from the inside out. Like so much of our relationship as women in particular to our bodies is from the outside in, appearance based, how we look, how we measure up, that survival mode of looking around at others' needs. And you mentioned sensitivity as a superpower. And I'm curious, and you also was really moved by what you just said around I want to be sovereign in my own life. I don't want to be living from exhaustion. And I think for so many who have been separated from the wisdom of their body, it can feel like, well, of course I don't want those things, but I have no choice. Like, this is just how it is, or this is how my life is. And, what follows that is, how could I possibly know what I want when I can barely keep up with managing what's in front of me? And I'm curious how embodiment and this embodiment coaching process has helped you rediscover a sense of choice and like how that shows up in your life today.
Yeah. Yeah. When I think about this, gift slash curse of being able to really hold the chaos for other people, I can really contend with a lot. And I have, like, I've worked as a nurse, and I've, had challenging times in my life where I can just really rise to hold for
Mm,
others. And
mm,
it's something that's just been there. I don't even have to think of it. It's reflexive. And how I'm seeing that, yes, that's a beautiful thing. And when it becomes something that's depleting, I need to recognize it, really recognizing beforehand that I'm not going to allow myself to get there. And if I do, there are ways that I can get myself back. I don't feel guilty for taking a rest. Ooh, God forbid you rest on the couch while your children are playing, because there's
mm.
laundry to do, because there's dishes to wash, like, so it's really come around to, like, I can take care of myself in this way. I do have a choice. Like, I'm scanning my environment from not a place of hypervigilance, but like, where are my moments that I can seize and take back?
I imagine this scenario you're describing of pushing through, getting that next load of laundry in, getting that next dish washed. It's like there's a numbness to the body. And how I experience it is almost like either the volume is turned down on my body or the volume is raging. And it's almost like a compulsion, like I can't stop. And I'm curious, has it felt like your body is a partner with you in giving you messages like in that moment of interception where you can make a different choice? What's that conversation like between you and your body?
Yeah. Yeah, that's ongoing fine tuning. We fall back into not doing that sometimes. But it is something that it's a relationship that I cultivate now. It's a
Mm,
relationship where, you know, when I'm hungry. I'm like, I am, and I will. I'm gonna prepare a meal. Like, I'm realizing that rather than just ignoring, or I don't know, seeing myself and these basic needs as inconvenient, right? We push them away, or we do the one more thing before we listen. It's an ongoing relationship, and I feel like my body is partnering. We're partners together as we navigate a lot of different things. And I've gotten through this process, through our work together and through my ongoing journey. The dark still feels scary. It's hard, it's messy to look in those dark corners. Um, we're afraid of what we're going to find. For me, it's always, how long am I going to stay there? I get scared of the dark that
mm,
way. And then realizing that I now have the skills to support myself through that. And even though I've learned to slow down, I slow down even more in those dark moments.
mm.
I really can shut the world out. I can kind of go to my own rescue in really very, very basic ways, as it's an earlier bedtime. I'm not scrolling. I'm not even watching TV. It's, fresh sheets on the bed, whatever it is, like a soft nightgown, just little things to stimulate my senses and my sense of safety inside.
I appreciate that awareness about the darkness and that, like, how much energy it takes to resist the dark. And I'm curious, how has this return to embodiment shifted your perception about those parts? Because I know for myself, before I started practicing embodiment, it was like, those are the parts that need to be fixed. Like, I always felt like I was just one self help course or two or three realizations away from like figuring it all out and resolving the dark. And what I think is so unique about embodiment is that there is nothing to resolve because these are all just different textures and different threads of our power. But we have to go through all the neural pathways of conditioning that have taught us to fear those parts of ourselves. And so you mentioned, and like, I so relate to that of like, how long am I going to stay here? Really relate to that. And I'm curious, like, has your viewpoint, it sounds like your viewpoint of those dark parts has shifted from a place of fear to a place of more power and self-love. And I'm just curious if you might speak to that.
Yeah, yeah. The dark, I've learned to again just see it kind of as these, that we're not broken, that there's nothing about me that needs to be fixed, that this is a season or this is a day or an hour, whatever it is that just needs to be honored, just to be witnessed. And I feel that those bodily sensations that I notice that come along with them, like whether it's a low mood or low energy, or whether it's constriction in my chest or my throat, which is definitely something I felt before, the constriction in my throat. I have more of a somatic lens to it and appreciation for like this is a messenger that has something for me that needs to be honored here. What is a need, and it just
Mm,
needs to be seen. And it softens when it does, when I do, when I'm like, oh yeah, even if I just put my hand on my heart or if I put my hand on my throat, I'm like, I can see. And then I kind of follow the thread of it. Like, oh, I think there is a part of me that's been trying to get more comfortable speaking up, speaking out, speaking the truth or being more authentic. That's that maybe something in my throat that's kind of nagging at me. It wants that. And just like all of us, we just want to be witnessed, seen and loved as we are. So I'm learning to do that to myself, for myself. And 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 for me, in terms of the darkness, I think, and this is what I love about the feminine piece too, is that I've really learned to look to nature for these things and being able to see the seasonality of us. And that I used to be like so depressed at winter, like seeing the season
mm,
again as an inconvenience. I don't want to deal with many months of winter once the holidays are over because there's nothing to do and everything's brown. And I'm a garden lover, so I can't wait to get out in my garden and look at it now. And it's the complaining around the weather. Like, I don't do that anymore. I see the earth as let her be.
mm,
It's going to rain today. She doesn't care. And
mm,
I'm going to be in my mood today and I don't care. Like, it's just like an unapologetic acceptance of every facet of who I am. And I can see others in that way. Like I said, like yes, it's really inconvenient when my 6-year-old is saying no or refusing to, get dressed for the thing that I'd like her to wear, something that doesn't have stains on, but she's gonna, we come to an agreement. Or I say, I love this about you. And for this, we're going to have to wear, so I promise you can wear that as soon as we get home. It's just like I meet her where she is. Like, I see her
mm,
because I
mm,
can witness myself, and others, at work can see the activated parts of other people and know it doesn't have anything to do with me, and,
mm,
and create that separation. I don't need to go to the rescuing of others. I can just see the humanness right there.
mm. God, what freedom,
Yeah.
and I love that word inconvenient because just like you said, when you were a little kid, like having needs causes inconvenience. And especially as women, it's like, do anything you can to not be inconvenient. And so I love that looking to nature and welcoming winter and that shift of, for me, it's like, and I hear you saying this as well, like nature, what happens inside of me and my emotional body is just a metaphor for what's happening in nature all the time. And that sense of belonging that comes from not turning our back on those parts and seeing that full spectrum of our humanity, when we can meet these parts of the body. And, in this process of embodiment coaching and of transformation, it's like there's a lot that we learn and a lot of tools and a lot of skills. And I think of that trajectory of like there's unconscious incompetence when you're just struggling and you don't even know why. There's conscious incompetence when you're like, okay, in this instance, for example, like I have not investigated anything below my neck in the last 40 years. It's like you're aware of the problem. It then transitions to conscious competence where you're working your tools, you're building your skills. It's uncomfortable. And then there's this phase, and this is the phase that I see you in, is unconscious competence of like, it's not even something that you really have to think about. It's just a part of you. And I'm curious, in your own words, I could say a lot about this as someone who's watched your journey, but in addition to just what you've learned and the changes you've seen, who do you feel like this process has helped you become that's different to who you were before the process?
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I think when I think back, I really had trouble with discernment. It's like I felt very stuck. I was just kind of frozen in action. I couldn't make the move. And I had done, my own reading and therapy over the years and things like that. But I couldn't help but think and really believe in my body that something was missing. And I did. I started to question, like, am I one of those people that's just going to struggle all through life? Like, this is my journey. I have it a little harder than other people. Relationships don't come easy to me, or I'm a little late to the game. I had my children midlife. Like, I might be one who's like maybe just 10 years behind the next gal, things like that. And, feeling like the need to catch up. Like, what am I catching up to? Like, now I realize I'm I'm right where I need to be. It unfolded as it was meant to in my specific situation. And I'm more that I think the word that comes to mind, and I remember you noticing this and saying this at our work together, like I'm just flooded with compassion for myself. And I really have that lens for other people. Like it's rough in the world, and there is an unburdening of a lot of stuff that goes way beyond where we stand today, and really being able to see our family situation too with a lot of compassion too. It's hard to forgive. It's hard to let go of resentment and things like that, and be able to hold to the both truths of like, my needs weren't met in these certain ways, and I can also understand, and I have a choice. I have a choice to swirl and spiral in that, and blame and make excuses. And for women, there's a lot of martyrdom, in that. It's like I'm just going to keep, holding the weight for others. This is the situation, and this is who I am. Like, but and questioning, is that who you are, though? Is that who you are? And like I've been able to really like unburden myself and unravel the truths of who I thought I was, and really see that it isn't. I am everything inside.
Mm,
I have the key to all of the things I've always been outsourcing and looking for. It's here.
mm. so powerful. And I love that piece around action. I've seen you take really brave actions in your life in this process. And I think for so many women, it's like action has been taught to us from that place of push, be brave, get out of your comfort zone, which is a very masculine talent and skill and superpower, and can keep, like, I love that you use that word frozen, can keep us frozen in inaction, and that through melting a lot of this resistance to all of, and I don't even know if resistance is the right word, but melting the beautifully wise tension and armor that forms when we're taught we can't trust ourselves. It's like then action becomes almost effortless. And so as we kind of come to a close, I'm curious, is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to share or that you'd like to be asked? Anything else you want to say?
Oh, no. I feel like I talked a lot.
We could keep going, in my opinion.
Always,
It's so
always.
rich.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just been such a you were the beginning of it all. I heard you and I was like, this is what I need. I need to get out of the hamster wheel thought loop that I was literally having like word finding difficulty. My body could not catch up with the amount of content that was happening in my mind. And I knew there needed to be a change. And it's felt so good to slow down and to recognize when I'm speeding up again and to slow down again and to possess the tools and the knowing that I have now to, apply this to my life.
Mm-hmm. I was really moved. I'll just say this last thing is that I was really moved when you and I were catching up before we hit record. And for the listeners to orient, like, you have gone on to take the feminine embodiment coach training with School of Embodied Arts, and you have your own coaching practice now. And I was really moved when you shared that with friends and in groups, you will be the one to say, let's unmask what's really going on, And like for so many of my clients and for so many people I know, it's like we are so longing for that rich, vulnerable connection, which really can only happen safely, in my opinion, when you have done the work that you're describing, which is to be able to stand in that place of genuine compassion rather than more of a variation, I would say, on people-pleasing compassion, genuine compassion of not just accepting, but really celebrating all facets of being a human being. So I'm so delighted that your voice, your skills, your talents, and just really your heart is out there in the world disrupting the status quo. And I'm just so grateful to have had the privilege to work with you. And thank you so much for sharing so generously today.
Well, thank you, Mary.
If you're craving more of this kind of slowness in your daily life, I invite you to come unwrap a bonbon of a practice. It's a free 5-minute velvet reset to lead you back home to your body whenever your thoughts are spinning, your shoulders are tensing, or you just need to reconnect to the compass within yourself. It's waiting for you in the show notes or at marylofgren.com/body.